This is Things Police See, First-Hand Accounts, with your host, Steve Gould.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast that interviews active and retired police officers about their most intense, bizarre, and sometimes humorous moments on the job. I am your host, Steve Gould. Thank you for being here. We have a sponsor for this episode. I want to tell you it is Burley Boards. I showed you last time. He made me quite the incredible piece right here, Massachusetts, the blue line through it. Thank you, Dan. Dan Carlson is the owner. You can get at him. I have a graphic standby here. Burley_boards on Instagram. Check out what he's got to offer. Functional art for your home. He does countertops. He'll do a custom piece for you. He'll do whatever you want, and you need it in your life. Believe me, I know you're a TPS listener. I can see exactly what you're like. You're in a rundown apartment. You're working doubles all the time. You're in your underpants on your couch. You're just eating Chinese food late, and someone walks in and they see you and they say, how pathetic. Then they look at your counters and they go, oh my goodness, is that a custom wood countertop? All is forgiven. Your family's no longer worrying about you. They see the Burley Boards countertop, and that's all thanks to Dan Carlson. So you can thank him. Go check him out. Order something up from him. Hell of a guy, good man. And thank you, Dan, once again for the beautiful gift. This is episode number 79, if you can believe it, guys. 79. And I'm doing better. I got more episodes scheduled, so I'm going to try to go every other week for a while. And if I can get them stacked up, I will do as many as I can to be more regular with it. But I'm not stopping the podcast. I'm going to keep it going. I have incredible people contacting me that want to come on and share their stories and share what they're doing in law enforcement. So I just want to keep going, and it just feels good to be back at it. This episode, I'm bringing you Bridget Truxillo. Bridget was a deputy sheriff in Gainesville, Alachua. She'll say the right pronunciation. I didn't say it again. We had a pre-conference, and she knows I was going to butcher it. That's a county in Florida. So, she's got some spicy stories because Florida is, it's crazy. Florida man, etc. She did patrol, narcotics, organized crime unit, and she was the first female SWAT officer in Florida, which is incredible, which is really cool. I thought they were, I didn't think they were very progressive down there in Florida, but it sounds like I'm hearing the opposite. She was a lady kicking ass on the SWAT team, which is awesome. Then 13 plus years as an attorney, and now she is the founder of Protective Wellness, which we're gonna get into that too. She has a wellness startup here that has all kind of services for people, first responders, for taking care of themselves, and also covers the legal side of it, which I think is fascinating and really cool. So without further ado, let me bring on Bridget. Bridget, welcome to the show.
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much. This is fun.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so happy to finally connect with you. Bridget and I both seemingly have exposed that we have crazy, hectic schedules. And if you look at our email string, it's like 1,300 emails about doing this. Yeah. But I'm so happy that we could connect. And can you tell us the proper pronunciation of that county?
Yeah, Alachua County, which is I went to the University of Florida for college, and so that's where Gainesville sits in Alachua County. So yeah, Alachua.
Gainesville, I know. So they don't. In Florida, does it work like they don't have Gainesville doesn't have a police department? It's policed by the sheriff's department.
No, it's different throughout the state. And one quick correction. I think it'd be awesome if I was the first ever SWAT officer in Florida, but I don't know that for a fact. I was definitely the only female SWAT person in my agency, and not sure they'll have another one.
Sorry, but I misread.
That's okay. That's I'm sure I probably typed that some crazy way, but it's different throughout. So for example, like Miami-Dade, that's all sheriff. And I think Jacksonville is the opposite. So Jacksonville annexed the whole county, and that's all police. But for us, Gainesville Police Department has their own, we have the sheriff's office. So outside the city limits, we do work, we can and did work within the city, but tried not to step on any toes. And we did all the same things. So it's different. What I've learned since leaving Florida is it's different every state. Like I live in Texas now, and they have the police and the sheriff and and constable, which is I'm still quite a little bit confused about
and like troopers,
the constables, and of course, the troopers in Texas, or what? That's actually, was that what they're called?
DPS,
the ones that wear the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guys who used to wear the Stetsons and ride the horses,
right,
and supposedly like super scary people. But,
yeah,
they're very nice now, but yeah, we did. I mean, patrol, did everything, warrants. I guess that's a good question. I don't think the city did the warrants, so we, executed. Arrest warrants, and we had the jail. I never worked in the jail. In some places, you have to start if your sheriff has the jail, you have to start in the jail before you can go to patrol. I never had a desire to work in corrections. God bless all the men and women that do that, because that is a special skill set to be locked in. But I did only the sheriff's office. So patrol very quickly within a year, went to the narcotics unit, and then spent the next 3 years in narcotics unit, and then 2.5 years on the SWAT team while I was also on narcotics unit.
That's awesome. Yeah. That whole sheriff thing is it's tough. I mean, it was, I worked for LAPD backgrounds for a little bit, and I got to hear the sheriffs and the LAPD guys go back and forth. And what a contentious thing where you want to be an LA County sheriff because of that's a cool agency and you've heard so much about it. Well, also LAPD is quite famous. So when you go to apply, a lot of guys apply to both. And what does LAPD have to say? You don't got to do the jails, my friend. Do you want to go to police academy and just be a cop? And they're like, yes, I don't want to be in jail. So the county sheriffs for a long time had like a 2-year rule. Like you had to be there. And I think they've gotten rid of it now just because, it kind of has worked out. Like people kind of find their niche. Some people find they don't like being in the public. They don't like interacting. I mean, it's super frustrating, right? Like they do it and they go, you know what? I'm going to go back to the jail and I'm going to get rank and I'm just going to work the jail. It's where I'm comfortable. But then you'll have cops that go in the jail and they go, for me, when I go into jail, my skin crawls. I want to leave.
Oh, I got to get out.
I feel like claustrophobic. No. It's like you're in jail when you're a guard, you can't use your phone. Like you can't go outside. It's like, nah, no, thank you. So
you're trapped.
Yeah, exactly. You're trapped. So the layers of law enforcement.
When I was like the layers, but then also like the corrections when I was the only female on the narcotics unit a lot of the time. And so anytime we would arrest a female, I had to do the search. And there's only so many places I'm going to search, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And I remember one time they took a girl in and they called me back and they said, well, she had some drugs stashed up in her hoo-ha.
Prison purse.
I'm like, well, that's too bad because I am not searching there.
Yeah.
If you think I'm searching there, you can fire me because I'm sorry that the people in the jail have to do that, but that's not going to be me. I took her with no guns, weapons, or obvious drugs. So there you go. No.
Let the jails take the pants off and tell them to squat because I don't want any part of it.
No.
And I have to hand that to jail or to corrections officers. They can search a person. I mean, I feel like how inadequate do your pat downs feel when you see a deputy sheriff do it or like a prison guard? It's like, holy cow, they are taking this guy to town. They get right up in there, Oh, that's funny. So how long were you on this sheriff's department total for your length?
4.5 years. So I feel like what I did is I crammed a whole lot in a little amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, they say that I never really listened to the advice that experience counts for a lot. So I tried to do it all at once. When I went into the sheriff's office, so I graduated from University of Florida, and then the week after I went to the police academy. And because when it came to graduating, I realized I did not want to do anything with my degree, trying to figure out what to do with my life.
What was your undergraduate in?
Horticulture, plants. I have a Bachelor of Science.
Wow, I might hit you up on the side. I'm like a junior farmer over here. Okay. I withdrew from school in my 4th year of engineering. I was in agricultural and biological engineering, and I freaking hated it. And withdrew from school, went traveling, went to super nerdy.
It is. And I thought, well, it's engineering, but at least it's outside. 'Cause I would love to, I thought I can be smart, but also be outside. I didn't want to be stuck in some office. And,
I don't blame you.
withdrew from school, went traveling, went to New Zealand by myself. I think I was 21 or so at the time. My dad didn't talk to me. Yeah, my dad didn't talk to me for almost a year. So when I came back, started working full time, finished this, what I call at the time, I was like, I'm just going to get this stupid degree. I don't even know what to do with my life. And then I joke around and say that I watched G.I. Jane and decided I would become a cop. Yeah. And I did watch G.I. Jane, although that's not why I became a cop. And I certainly did not shave my head. But decided I wanted a job that would require me to be physically fit if possible, because working out's always been important to me. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, I'll just do local law enforcement to get there. And then throughout my experience, especially because of SWAT team, well, on the narcotics unit, I met a lot of federal investigators. And so I started to realize like the struggles I was dealing with in my department were not going to go away at the federal level. And if anything, I just felt like, I mean, no offense to anybody federal out there, I just felt like it would be bigger egos with the problems that I felt like I was dealing with at the sheriff level. So that's what I decided to go to law school. That was a true identity crisis. When I decided that law enforcement was not what I wanted to do, and I had worked so hard for it, especially being on the SWAT team, to realize that's not what was going to work out was, I mean, crushing. But, sometimes the crappy things turn into the good things later. They just don't feel like it at the time.
Absolutely. So, I know it is. I mean, to get that badge is such a pain in the ass. It is such a pain. And I did, I had a little break in law enforcement. I did 10 years and went through the academy with my buddies. And I say to this day, graduating police academy was like one of the happiest days of my life. Like it really was. Like it's corny to say, but it's like, to me, it was really hard. And it was a huge pain. And to find, in our graduation, we were the 50th class. And the governor of the state was there, and it was just really cool. And I was just really proud to have achieved it. There was times when I thought, on a run, like I'm going to fall out. I can't do this 7-mile run, and I just did it. And I'd never run that far in my life. You know what I mean? And it just, for me, it was such a special day. So fast forward 10 years down the road, when I'm going to leave, I'm like, it was hard. I was like, wow, I'm going to walk away from this. It's like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? You must have had that real, especially 4 years in, you must have been like, whoo, this is, did you look for a way to stay certified? Like, go to law school, but also stay sworn somewhere so you could keep your... My experience was so intense because of being in the narcotics units. Guys were almost all the same as the SWAT guys. And it just was so intense. And so when I got out, I was like, F all of you. I don't care what freaking happens to you. I'm getting the F out. Yeah. And you took on a lot. I think fast. It's about that. Well, I think it's that point too. I think when you're about 5 years into law enforcement, I think this was with any career, but I certainly felt like that when I was an attorney. Also, once I became an attorney, is that I think about 5 years in is when you really start to get an idea about what the job is like, the pressures of it, and especially for law enforcement. And to me, that's when it really started to hit that, what the feeling of you have to assume everybody out there, like you have to take care of yourself. You have to protect yourself. You don't want to die on the job. So you have to assume somebody wants to hurt you. Because even we all seen the video. I mean, nice people can do bad things. I know. So, what a horrible way to think all the time, Right. And I realized that hit me around about the 4.25 year mark. And, so adding that on, all the hard things you see. I was telling somebody the other day, like the things that really compounded to me, like mentally and emotionally, were the kids, the sad things with the kids, or going into people's houses with search warrants and say they're selling crack or cocaine out of their house, and all these kids around, and I just sort of like the things I remember, like the small houses with a bunch of people in there, and the mattress on the floor with no sheets, and the clothes just piled up on the end of the mattress because they don't even have a dresser, or opening up the microwave and the roaches come out, and like that kind of stuff breaks your heart for the kids because you think, what choice? What hope do they have? And you can't save them all. And so then do you just not care, which that's not who you want to become, or
I mean, you know, like the domestic violence things you see and the same people you see over and over and over. And do you stop caring about them because they can't get themselves out? But it's just so hard to see the same woman beat up so many times. So that hit me around 4.5, like I said, 4.5. And so that on top of the uniqueness of being the only female on the SWAT team, when I got out, I knew I could find a way to give back and do something. I knew, even though I was frustrated with a lot of the guys, some of the guys I worked with, I still knew I wanted to give back to law enforcement.
It had to be super boys clubby in the SWAT team, right? Oh my
gosh. People used to say, "Why'd you get out?" And I would say, "Well, I'm not part of the Bubba's Club." And I mean, I'm from a lot of small towns in the South, so country towns, I'll call them. And Alachua County, but for Gainesville, where the University of Florida is a very rural county. And so it's a bunch of what I call Bubba's. No offense. I don't mean that as a derogatory term.
I like it.
Used to.
Bubba's.
Honestly, I used to mean it as a derogatory term, but I've 13 years later and my therapist have helped. But, I used to say, "Oh, I'm not part of the Bubba's Club." And they said, "What do you mean?" And I'd say, "Well, I don't own a bass boat. I don't pee standing up, and I don't spit tobacco." And then I'm not part of it. And then I would
you
say,
could have done 2 out of the 3 if you needed to.
I was going to say, technically, I can do all 3 of those if I want to.
Right.
And on some of our SWAT training things, there were certainly times where I'd, got to go out. Anybody that's from Florida knows what Camp Blanding is, which is an Army training, like acres of woods where the Army trains, and they have some of those like cement pretend towns where you can, train on active shooter things. And we were at Camp Blanding. We'd go every year for a week for a SWAT. And there were definitely times where I'd be like, "Okay, guys, everybody look that way. I'm going this way to pee." And I was, if I had to pee standing up, you do what you got to do. But technically I could be part of the Bubba's Club. I decided I didn't want to be, but so it's hard to leave. And then my certification, my standards expired in 2010, and I was the attorney. I remember I remember I was in an airport. My first job as an attorney. I traveled a lot. And so I don't remember what airport I was in, but I remember sitting in the airport knowing it was the day my certifications were going to expire and thinking, do I call to get an extension to get my, because you just had to keep up with the high liability stuff.
Right.
And about,
you think being an attorney, you'd be easy to do,
And some states you can actually get like if I wanted to go back in, I could get a waiver for the police academy, but Texas is not one of those. So I actually have looked into it to see if I wanted to just get on reserve somewhere. My husband would hate it if I did it, but, at the time, so 2010, I'm licensed to practice law in 4 states. I've taken 4 bar exams. I don't advise that.
That was terrible.
I remember though I was traveling. So in 2008, I took the Texas bar. 2009, I took the Florida bar in case I could ever move back, because Florida is one of the states you can never waive in as an attorney. And it took me a while to get sworn in because of my law enforcement background. They really, really dug into my law enforcement file. And so it took me a while to get sworn in there. And I remember sitting at the airport, basically getting notice that I got approved to be sworn in Florida as a lawyer, and then also choosing to let my certifications expire in Florida. So I remember that day. But really, I don't regret it because I knew it was something I would never want to do in that way again. But I've always known that I would want to do something to give back and help law enforcement, because either, number one, I don't want you to feel like you're being thrown under the bus like I did at times, or number two, I really believe strongly in the wellness side of things and feel like I can help with that. So
I understand. Yeah. That's crazy. I can't believe you took 4 bar exams. The idea that, there is whole scenes in movies dedicated to the bar exam and then someone killing themselves over it. So I'm not interested at all in anything like that.
I'm definitely glutton for punishment. And I'll say that I certainly always sought out challenges in life. I remember when I called one of the guys I went to the police academy with, he found out that I was trying out for SWAT team, and he called me and he said, "Why are you doing that?" Like, in one way he was saying, "Man, that's going to be really hard. Are you sure you want to do it?" But then he said, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" So then he just pissed me off.
So let me ask you this. I
definitely did it.
Let me ask you this, Bridget, because clearly you're a very driven, capable person. Were you really driven to be in SWAT, or was there a part of it that was like, do you always need a challenge? Were you like, I need this challenge and there's no females and, this is going to be really good for me because it's kind of like that little pushback, and then it's going to be something you can do, bam, and you do it. Like, or was it like, were you just like true blue SWAT?
Honestly, I'm going to say it's all of the above.
Okay.
When I was in high school, this is so stupid.
I mean, I like it. You're one of these people, you just take it to the max. Like wherever you are, you're like, I'm going to do that all the way.
Whenever, in high school, I had this really awful boyfriend who just was always saying, basically, you're not good enough, or I'm better than you all the time. And so surely there was a piece of me trying out the SWAT team that was like giving him the middle finger, even though I've never talked to him. I think I saw him like my freshman year of college when I went back to Louisiana for something. Because I'm from North Louisiana near Shreveport.
Yeah, people get under your skin. I know. I think of people from years ago.
He
sometimes.
just pissed me off.
Yeah.
And then, but you go into police because you believe in it. Like it matters. It's a job that matters.
Absolutely.
Like one of the reasons I left the law firm world is I just didn't feel like the job mattered. And I did personal injury law. I was on the plaintiff side. So, not necessarily like the ambulance chasing folks, but I mean, I did personal injury work. And so I didn't do like the car wrecks and stuff like that. But I think it's important for people to have a remedy when they're hurt. But I just was never one of those that really believed in you should sue people for all things.
Yeah.
And so, but being a cop is a job that matters.
Yes.
Like it really matters. And our country and our people need it. And then being on SWAT team is that you do stuff that really, really matters. So, saving hostages. And we had one time it was a guy shooting a rifle he was a meth head, and he was shooting his rifle out into the neighborhood from his home. And if people, most people listening to this know about a rifle round, but most people, if you don't, not many things stop a rifle round. Like a bulletproof vest doesn't stop a rifle round.
Soft body armor is no bueno.
No, ceramic plates, which we had our extra vest that we'd wear on SWAT, like ceramic plates will start, steel will stop it. I mean, some concrete doesn't. I mean, so, those things matter because you're saving people's lives. And I did really like that part of it because you get into patrol and you quickly see that like the donut thing is real. Like a lot of people in patrol, no offense to anyone out there, I'm not going to say a lot. Some people in patrol are not proactive.
Yeah.
And you might be able to tell by now, I consider myself a proactive person. So, I wanted to do more that mattered. I wanted it to be intense. I wanted it to, I just wanted all the things. And I was giving the middle finger to anybody that said I couldn't do it. Definitely that required physical fitness to another level, which I really like that part of it.
You're sassy. You're a sassy Southern lady. I like it.
I am.
You're tough.
Hopefully I'm a sassy, nice Southern lady most of the time, but I can certainly, I also have 2 daughters now that are going to, when they get to dating age, they're not going to be happy.
I get the vibe. I would not mess with you, Bridget. I would not mess with you.
Good.
So before I ask you a question, Northern Louisiana. Now I want to call this out because Iceman from Motor Cop Chronicles says he's from Southern Louisiana, but you detect something. You sent me a very nice message about that episode. You listened to it and you really liked Iceman. He was so fun to interview. I mean, I think he was a Bubba, right?
Yeah.
He was a Bubba for sure. Like just a good, and he's like the sweetest guy, the nicest guy. He actually sent me a care package of like a bunch of Louisiana stuff. It's like just such a nice guy. But you said in his dialect, maybe he is from Northern Louisiana.
Yeah. So my husband's from New Orleans, but he's not from down the bayou. But one of the guys he went to high school with is from what you call down the bayou. I can't remember the name of the city right now or village. He has an accent that's so strong. First time when I first met him and we went out to drink and we were young and before kids, I couldn't understand what he was saying. I've definitely talked in my job as an attorney. I used to have clients down in South Louisiana and I'd have to find like coworkers of people to go because I did asbestos litigation. So I'd have to go find people that used to work with my clients that my clients passed away and I needed to find coworkers. And I'm down like south of Lafayette in the middle South Louisiana. And all I heard him, understood him say was babe. And then he started talking.
So this is like old, like Creole dudes that just speak like,
serious Creole. So the guy, so Iceman did not have that at all. And when he was, the whole time he was talking, I think, and I saw in the description, and that's why I listened to that. I love that episode. I'm like, oh my God, this is Louisiana. I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah.
And he's talking, I'm like, oh, he's near somewhere by me. Like he's from my kind of Louisiana. Because people from Louisiana say if you're from anywhere north of I-10, you might as well be Arkansas, which is most of Louisiana.
Yeah, right.
And so, and then when he said it, as he was talking and describing that he's in South Louisiana, like he definitely sounds like he's from North Louisiana to me, or at least closer to Alexandria. If you're from like Alexandria, sort of the middle, like that's the middle point that divides you like, north and south.
Well, he's a fan, so hopefully we're going to get these answers. I think we will. Bridget,
I hope so.
Take us back to young Bridget. Kicking ass. She's got a flame under her ass. Tell us about the first time you responded to a hot call, the first time that you really had that adrenaline dump.
Oh gosh. So amazingly, it was my very first call in patrol on my own out of training. So my agency, we got hired when we started out of the academy. Once you pass the test and all, it's 3-month training program. So 1 month with different field training deputies, and then you're out of that, and it's the first time you're in a car. Because my agency, we didn't ride with people. So I got my patrol car on my own out in whatever rural boondocks zone they put me in because, I was the rookie. But it was New Year's Day, January 1st, and I probably shouldn't say this. I think there's probably some statute of limitations on it, but I was hungover because I had gone out the night before. It was New Year's Day.
Everybody's done it. Come on.
I worked the 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift when I started, which I loved because that was like the hot shift. I was so happy I got that. Like I didn't want midnights and I didn't want days. I wanted the 3 p to 3 a shift, and I got it. Anyway, first call, very first dispatch I was the closest person there. And shots fired into an occupied home, and the shooter's on scene.
Whoa.
And I was literally like, holy snap. Yeah. I'm very good with directions. Right. So I'm very good with directions. So I knew exactly where I was going. I didn't have to like stop and pull over and look at the map and everything. Like I knew where I was going, but I was like, oh my gosh, please let this person not be there, because my backup was not close.
Yeah.
And like I definitely was going to get there before anybody else could get there to back me up. I did not want my first call to be an active shooter on scene by myself, but of course you have to go. Like, right. I mean, anybody who knows the story about Columbine is that they didn't go in and people bled out and died.
Right.
And just don't get me started about the state of affairs now and then pulling out school resource officers. But yeah, that one was like, thankfully when I got there, the shooter was gone. Nobody was injured. And so,
how was it when you keyed the radio, Bridget, to respond? Were you like, just calm down, just don't sound crazy? When you was your heart just like bang,
I
bang,
don't
bang,
remember. Bang. I don't remember. I remember turning around and thinking, holy fuck, I'm trying not to cuss too much, but I can cuss like a sailor. I knew I was like less than 5 minutes away, or running lights and sirens. I don't remember. I think it took me less than that, and I don't remember what I said, honestly. That was, surely I told them I was going. Like, now I'm thinking, well, did I respond? Maybe they didn't know I was going. I don't remember. God, I just remember thinking, this can't be happening to me. And I loved it because, that's what you sign up for. You sign up for the crazy stuff. And then I think the whole rest of the shift, it was like crickets. Like nothing else happened for the rest of the 12 hours. But I got it all in the first 7 minutes of the shift, and then the rest of it was dead. But
that's good. Just let your adrenaline come down and just let it burn out your blood. Oh man. Yeah, that's freaky, especially super rural. You're going to be alone, and you're thinking, I'm going to roll up and he's just going to start shooting at my car. I'm going to have to get out of my car. I'm going to have to be in a gun battle and all the stuff you're thinking. Oh my goodness.
At least when I was on SWAT team, when I was on SWAT, I was also undercover narcotics, so I wasn't in a marked car. But said that I still had my MP5, can switch to full auto. I had my Benelli shotgun. I would much rather roll up on stuff with those guns in my back, in my trunk, rather than at the time all I had was my Glock 40 on my side, and I had a 5-shot revolver on my ankle. which I upgraded to something else later. But yeah, there was so many rural times. I mean, I remember one time I pulled out to something. It was it was in the country, pulling up down on a dirt road. I think in one of those like county line roads, meaning it's so far out in the county. Like if you step to the right, you're out of the county. So stay left.
Yeah.
But, pulling up to this mobile home and getting one of those feelings like, oh my God, thankfully it wasn't an active shooter situation, but I remember one of those thinking, I'm going to wait until my backup gets here. I'm not rolling up on this house by myself because something just didn't feel right. And thankfully it didn't turn into anything. And maybe that's because we had 2 or 3 of us show up instead of just me. But I mean, I'm sure you've had the feeling you pull up to something and think, ooh, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. If you can wait for that backup, it just psychologically changes the whole thing too.
Oh yeah.
You're going in with some, when you're by yourself, it can definitely be super freaky. Bridget, can you tell us about a strange or bizarre thing you dealt with? Or multiple things, and people treat this question as a, amalgam of different experiences that they had. Cause I know in police work, we do just kind of walk into very strange situations. It might not necessarily be a story, but there's I have multiple things cataloged in my mind that involve animals or sex toys or, just totally bizarre things where you're like, because when you're a cop, you really do teleport into someone else's life. Just boom, I'm in your life. I'm in your house. You didn't know I was going to your bedroom. I'm in your bedroom, or I'm in your garage. People don't know you're going to be in these places, and you get to see really weird stuff sometimes.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you do it, obviously I didn't do it that long, but it doesn't take long to start cataloging a lot of things that most people would probably really stand out in their mind. But then as you start to add them, you start to think, that doesn't seem strange anymore. But I mean, I remember one of the first ones was not that far out in the county. So it might have even still been city limits was, this guy, this farmer-ish guy had some property with some cows on it, and some wild dogs had attacked one of his calves. This one's short, but I can have another one after this. But I don't even know if I told you this one about the email, but maybe I did. His dog had been attacked. This is a farmer guy. Dog's been attacked. Calf. The calf was dying, and he didn't know what to do. And then I'm trying to get animal control services, which in my opinion, they were never, ever helpful in my experience.
Never available.
Right. Didn't do anything, pit bull attacking children, like they'll get around to it later, whatever. And he basically said, can you just put the calf down? And I'm like, well, don't you have a gun? And he said, no. I'm like, you're a farmer and you don't have a gun?
Damn, putting it all on you.
Okay. And so I was so new, and I called my sergeant and asked for permission, because I was like, I don't know if they have my bullets counted. I don't know if I'm supposed to account for all didn't know. And so he said, yeah, that's fine. And so, I worked somewhat night shifts, and I had one of those earpieces. So my mic was on my lapel, but I had one of those fit in my ear because, at night I didn't want, if I was sneaking up on somebody, I didn't want them to hear my mic. And so I had it on my left ear. And I got permission to shoot the calf, and I'm leaning down to shoot him. And knowing it was going to be loud, instead of doing the smart thing, which would be to turn this way where this ear's protected, I turned this way and shoot him to where it gets me right in my eardrum.
40 calibers are loud too.
Yeah. And so then I feel like I couldn't hear for 2 days. But of course I didn't tell anybody about that because I didn't want to look stupid. And so I put this calf down, and then the next day on my shift, I show up, and the guys on my squad had a present for me from the farmer, which was a 5-pound piece of veal with a note on it saying, thank you so much for putting down Molly the cow. I appreciate you so much. And the guys it was totally made up. They just thought it was funny that I had put down a cow.
That's awesome. I thought it was real. I'm like, wow, that's really awesome.
No, yeah, I did too. I was like, and they all, it's not real. They were just trying to get me. But then another one, this one was kind of sad, but it was just, in Florida, we have something called a Baker Act. I'm sure every state has it, where you involuntarily commit somebody for, 48, 72 hours.
Yeah, we call it, in Massachusetts, it's called a Section 12. You just take them to the hospital and they're loony bin.
So there's a facility where you take people for Baker Act. Well, this woman was outside the door at the Baker Act facility and trying to get in, but no judge had signed the papers for her to do that yet, because you can't, involuntarily hold someone without a legal order to do so.
But she wants to get in. You should let her in.
She wanted to get in. She was having an episode, like, for real. Yeah. She was this lady, and she had long, like, kind of like I don't know if you can tell, my hair's kind of reddish. She had long, kind of reddish hair, and it was, kind of curly, but not clean. And she was all crouched down in the corner of this door against the wall. And I'm in my first month of training, so I'm just behind my training deputy, standing by him, and, he's taking the lead. And she looks right up at me, and she says, "You and your fucking pretty hair." And I thought that was so, I don't know if I should say thank you or what. Well, then sadly about, I think I was I was still in training, I'm pretty sure. So my second month, we get dispatched out to a mobile home with a gunshot suicide. And we walk in, and I don't remember how long the lady had been there, but it doesn't take long for people to change how they look after they die. And it took a little while, but maybe after about an hour of being in and having to figure out what's going on, I realized that's that same lady. So she had committed suicide with a .22 rifle, but it almost looked like a BB gun. I mean, you couldn't even, thankfully it wasn't one of the gross ones. There was no exit wounds.
So
I realized it was that same lady, which was very sad to me. Cause then you think, oh shoot, could I have done something to help? But then shortly thereafter, we realized that we weren't in there for an hour before we realized this. There are like holes in the wall, not like the holes, but like cuts in the wall everywhere. And then we go into the son's room, who was not there at the moment, thank God. And he has, what are those, like ninja things that you throw that they're very sharp stars? And they're kind of, yes, everywhere. And knives everywhere. So apparently he was obsessed with very lethal, sharp things. And is one of those, and then we go into like the kitchen, and the trash is piled up like to the ceiling.
Yuck.
So it was a not good house. And then we realized when we went into the son's room, like, thank God he wasn't there, because he obviously wasn't stable. And with all
throwing
those
stars at you.
Yeah. That could have hurt. But yeah, I mean, and there's just so many. Like the time somebody died in the Taco Bell drive-thru.
What?
And then they sent me to go move the person's car.
Before or after they got their food?
The car was at the window. So
really?
Must have had like a heart attack and died in the Taco Bell drive-thru, but the car was still there. So the ambulance had come and taken the person away.
Died from
you need to go
excitement
move the car.
Taco Bell.
So I don't know. I learned this the hard way, that when people die, their body lets go of everything, all fluids.
It can, yeah.
So I sit down in the driver's seat to move the car, and learned the hard way that dead people let go of all fluids, and I sat in it. It was awful. I didn't sit long, obviously. I was one of those like sit and like you'd be like, oh God. And then I was so gross. I'm too embarrassed to like tell anybody. And I think I ended up having to like call my sergeant and say, Sarge, I don't really want to tell you why, but can I run home and get some more pants? And it was awful.
Oh my goodness, Bridget.
I ended up pushing it straight out, pushing the car straight up and like throwing it in park and like, fucking piece of garbage.
How badly did you want to take those pants off?
Oh
my gosh.
And then get back in my patrol car to drive home. I'm sure I sat on something, but like I do this on my Instagram now where I post like tips like once a month. And one of them tips says, keep extra clothes in your extra uniform in your car. Trust me on this one.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
oh my gosh. You must have been like itchy.
It was horrible.
Oh, that's so brutal.
And of course I didn't want to tell anybody on my shift or at all, or any shift. I didn't want to tell anybody that I knew in law enforcement, because they never would have let me down. But now
there would be some kind of gift for your next roll call.
Yeah.
Not a nice piece
like
of
diapers.
veal. Yeah, exactly.
No. Yeah,
oh my
gross.
gosh. You say that the one of the first dead bodies I went to, there was like you're saying, they release. Sometimes they don't. And I went to one, and this guy was just asleep on his bed, or well, he was dead, but he went to sleep on his bed wearing sweatpants. It was all very odd because he had like folded his clothes for the next day and placed them on the bed, and it was his spare room rather than his main room, like almost like he knew he was going to die. It was really weird. But anyways, being new, not seeing like a bunch of dead bodies that have been dead for a couple of days, I'm just standing there looking at the guy's crotch, and there's like, it's like a softball or a little bit bigger than a softball bulge on his crotch, and then just like a wet spot on the top. And I'm like, what am I looking at here? And the other guy that showed up, my partner, was like, everything's expanding. He goes, do you smell anything? I go, I don't. I go, it doesn't have that usual, like, because I have a weak stomach. I'm a big dry heaver. I have to admit, I am. I will just start. Like I've been to bad crashes, and I've been to bad, bad animal stuff. I had a bad dolphin thing when I was a natural resource officer, and I have to be in the right headspace, or if I stand around for too long, I'll start dry heaving. I just can't stop, and so of course, people bust your chops for that. Or like, oh my gosh, he's gonna dry heave.
Here he goes again.
Here he goes. Oh, give it to Gould. He's gonna puke. So, I'm like, well, I don't like this. This is, and they said, my partner's like, well, the coroner's gonna come, and when they move him, that's when we're gonna get some action. I'm like, well, why don't you give me the Vicks and everything else you got? Because I do not want to barf on the corner. It's like, and he just was expanding, and and then of course, like when they're like, well, is there puncture wounds? I'm like, oh, no, there's not. But the guy's ancient, and he's on 1,000 medications, and I think he just died here. Yeah. Do you want me to roll him around to look for puncture wounds? But yeah, oh my gosh, you just took me down memory lane.
I had one where the guy was there for a week before he was checked on, and that's when I had to help get the body out. Oh. And even I was like,
they didn't bring enough help. When they don't bring enough help, I'm always like, you should bring, like when the coroner shows up alone, I'm like, where's your helper? Because I don't want to be your helper. I want to leave. I don't want to be here.
But when people don't know, like when the body's been there a week, things don't stay together. And and that was another one where I called, that was the first one where I called the sergeant, and I was like, please let me go home and change, because the smell was so bad.
Permeating you.
So bad. It was in my nose. I mean, it was on my clothes. Maybe it was just my nose, but it seemed like it was all on my whole uniform. Like, please. And he wasn't happy about it, but he let me go change, because there was no way. And I think I was only like 4 or 5 hours into the 12 hours shift. Like, no way. Let me go. I'll run lights and sirens if I'll be right back. Just let me go change.
Yes. That's the dolphin that I had, Bridget. I mean, it's not a human body, so it's a lot different. But anyways,
but still,
we picked up a white-sided dolphin. It had washed up. They're big. They're like, it's like 8 feet. And we bring it to the town had dug in their DPW, in their transfer station. They dug. We used to call it the pit of despair. So if you got an animal, you could just put it in there, and the front end loader guy would just cover it. So I back up my natural resource truck, and I have this huge dolphin in there, and I shove it off the tailgate. And as I shove it off, it already was horrifically stinky. As I shove it off, the tailgate hits its vocal cords, and it goes,
no.
It makes the dolphin sound. Not joking. It goes, and shoots fluid onto me. And the odor
my gosh
came at me, and I was immediately dry heaving. I was, I couldn't, it was like,
I don't know how you would not throw up. I would have just legit thrown up. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have, but
it was so bad. And
you win.
The guy I was with was just, he was just like the deepest state of joy I've ever seen anybody in. He was just laughing so hard. I'm like, screw you. But all right, I digress.
Only cops.
I digress.
Only cops.
Yeah, exactly. Your suffering is hilarious. All right, Bridget, Can you tell us about your most intense or terrifying call that you went on?
I'd say intense. Like it didn't feel terrifying at the time. It maybe normal people would think it's kind of terrifying, but I think this is the one maybe I mentioned to you. But Friday the 13th. Like, okay, this is a 100% real story. I was on the SWAT team. So I was on the narcotics unit SWAT team. We already talked about that. But whenever we would get a narcotic search warrant, the SWAT team would execute the search warrant, meaning the SWAT team is the one that would go in and break down the doors. Like, difference being that some of the bigger agencies, their narcotics units train for that kind of stuff. We didn't have that kind of manpower, and so the SWAT team would do that. And so we would wear, the narcotic. I'd wear double hats. So. It wasn't my search warrant, meaning I wasn't the one that had led the investigation, that's not important. But anyway, it was Friday 13th. We were staging for a search warrant, probably couple blocks away, but where people can't see us, obviously, because we usually don't announce we're coming. Right. And we end up hearing on the radio, this is Friday at 4:00. I remember the sun had not gone down yet. It was like nearing sunset. It was a pretty day. I don't remember what time of year it was. It's not important, but it wasn't super hot. So it wasn't summertime in Florida. I'll tell you that much. And so we were staging, waiting to just get everybody lined up because, we have the armored vehicle that goes in first on the SWAT stuff. That's where the entry team deploys from. And then we'd have the what we call the bread van that comes up behind with all the extra gear you might need. Sure. And so we were staging. And all of a sudden we hear they have a potential hostage situation 5 minutes away. And so they don't know where we're staging the SWAT team. So our captain, our SWAT commander gets on and says, "Hey, we're right around the corner. We'll handle it." Instead of having to get patrol go to handle a potential hostage situation. So we go over there and we handle it. And that one wasn't that dramatic because we get there quick and it wasn't that they were able to get into the house. I think patrol maybe had already gained entry that they needed to get to a bathroom or something. And it was a mentally impaired person and it wasn't really hostage and everything was okay. So we're coming out of that and we're getting ready to load back. We're loading back up into the vehicles. And then the next thing we hear is that there is a robbery in progress at the Outback Steakhouse. Now, in Gainesville, Florida, at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon for happy hour, the Outback Steakhouse is packed. Yeah, I mean it's packed. Yeah, I used to go back then. I mean,
hell yeah, Outback's a bomb. I love Outback. It's so good.
And so we're thinking, oh my gosh, one of the most densely populated areas of Gainesville has a robbery in progress in the Outback Steakhouse. So we're thinking people laid out on the floor, they're robbing everybody in the restaurant. So we're like, okay, well, we'll take it. We're right here. So we go on the way. This is the only time that I was behind the two guys with the shields. I don't know how it happened because they never let me do that, ever.
Good place to be.
But I was behind the two guys. And so I don't remember why. Maybe I had the flashbang or something. And so, you get the guys with the 60-pound shields and they're holding up and, to make entry. And then my job would have been to run in and throw the flashbang. And we're literally walking up to the Outback. And all of a sudden we hear on the radio saying, not the Outback, the jewelry store next door. So we're about to walk into a packed Outback Steakhouse
people heart attacks.
Flashbang all the people. And so
a bunch of 70-year-olds
Yeah, exactly. And so literally I'm grabbing the two guys behind me. If you see those cartoons, it's I'm like this, grabbing them, my heels digging into the sidewalk. Stop!
Stop it.
Stop! And trying to turn them left because the jewelry store is to the left of Outback, just next door. So then we turn and we make entry into the jewelry store and we had just missed the robbers. Literally they had run out the back door and they jewelry, a trail of jewelry following them. We had just missed them. So we do all that, and then of course we don't stage. We're not the crime scene people, and get all of our stuff. And we're like, hey, don't need us anymore. We're leaving. So then we go back to where we were staging for the search warrant, execute our search warrant, get a bunch of cocaine or something. I don't even remember if it was cocaine or crack, and then tie all that up with a pretty bow and go home. That was our Friday night.
I like it.
It was, and all that happened in less than 4 hours.
Wow,
it was crazy.
That is crazy. I I don't think I've ever heard of a SWAT team jumping calls like that, like going
No.
from one to another. They're like, we're already out. Might as well go over here. Because usually it's like
because normally if it's a hostage situation, like we have to get called out for it, or a robbery in progress, we never would have been there for it. That would just have to be patrol handling it, and patrol can handle it. Just so happen, would you rather walk into an armed situation with a big shield? I'd rather.
Yeah,
so,
call you guys. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so that was, never would you have that many things happen where we're right in the vicinity and be able to jump on it back to back. It was nuts.
I bet you slept like a baby that night.
Thankfully, because everything worked out okay, I can say it was such a cool day. Certainly, it would have been a different story had something happened to a hostage or whatever, but nobody got hurt.
It's
Some
funny.
people got arrested.
It's so funny. Like you tell that story and clearly very intense. And I have stories from my past in law enforcement that are intense. And when I tell them in a, like a kind of jovial way. And, but when I really stop and think about how I felt during those calls, it's a way different feeling. You know what I mean? Isn't it funny? Like it's so fun to reminisce. But when you really think about the emotions you were feeling there, it was freaky. Like it was like...
at the time you're thinking, holy fuck.
Yeah, you're maxed out. You're just like...
We're thinking we're about to walk into an Outback Steakhouse full of people where they're all being robbed, but, at gunpoint. That is like...
Yeah, your body's running on nitro. You're dropping adrenaline. You're just boom, boom, boom. When you look back, it's kind of like Police Academy or anything else that's difficult. When you look back on it, you're like, I remember that time they did that to us, made us do this, and it was so terrible, and they were yelling at us. And isn't that funny? Yeah. Well, if you talk to a recruit in Police Academy, they're like, my life is hell.
This sucks.
Yeah,
yes.
I hate my life. Yes. I don't think I'm going to pass, whatever. It's just amazing. It's actually like, I equate that to my wife with childbirth. We have a baby. We have 3 babies. Oh, yeah. I'm very blessed by the Lord to have 3 babies, and I'm so grateful for it. But we have one, and then it's so difficult and was so hard, and we had some medical issues up front. And then, but I swear, in like 4 months' time, my wife's like, I want a big family.
We should have another one.
And I'm like, what? Like, I'm still traumatized, but she's over it.
Yeah.
And then we have another one, and she's like, yeah, we should have another one. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm stressed to the max. And she's just like, we got to do one more. I'm like, oh my goodness, lady, you're killing me. But because she's, I think that's the way women are programmed are just,
for sure,
just tough that way. You know?
I have 3 kids also. And I remember my first 2 are 16 months apart, which that was my husband's idea.
Irish
I didn't know
twins.
that would actually happen that quickly. My husband was like, this is so great. Let's do this again. And I was the one saying, are you kidding me? This is so hard. He was so in love with our daughter. He was so in love with our daughter that he's like, we should do this again. We got to do this again. And finally I was like, it's just going to be so hard. And he said, well, it's going to be hard no matter what. And I finally said, and literally texted him one day. I was like, you're right. It'll be hard. Let's just see what happens. And I joke and say that I got pregnant like in that text message because my first 2 kids are 16 months apart. And then about a year and a half later, I said, or maybe not even a year, I was saying to my husband about the 3rd. And my husband's like, are you kidding me? We can hardly handle the 2 that we have. But then 5 years later, I had my 3rd, and I'm done. Yeah. I'm for sure done.
That we did the same thing. We did a bunch of year break, did one more, and we're good. Yeah. I'm glad you decided to do that. I mean, the world needs good people, and you know what I mean. It's good that you did it, but it is crazy. I mean, it's nuts. It is. At the end there, it sounds like you guys reversed roles, but that was me the whole time. I was like, really? Okay. Yeah. What am I going to say?
I say that. That's the only time my husband, I would say, had a laid back approach to it because he gets very stressed out on kid stuff. It's like my youngest is 4. So he's still at the throw a fit for no reason stage.
Right.
Why is he crying? Why is he crying? I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you ask him? He's 4. I'm sure he can really explain it to you.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, I always tell my husband, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So,
well, we need you guys to say that because I'm the same way. I don't compute, it's as smart as I think I am. You know what I mean? I don't get it. I know that my youngest is, He's like a year and a half right now. And he just recently switched to dad mode. And I friggin' love it. He just loves the crap out of me right now. There's no reason. Yeah. I work a lot. Maybe it's because I'm not around so much, but it's like when I walk in the room, he's like, boom. He's instantly happy. And then he's like, when I hold him, he's like, oh, he puts his head down, wants to take a nap with daddy. And it's like, you know,
it is.
It's like, it's intoxicating. It's like, it's so good. Yes. And it's, my wife, she loves to see it, of course, but you know, she's doing all this work and seeing me just, you know, absorb it. She's like, yeah, that's wonderful for you, isn't it?
Exactly.
He just loves you so much. You do nothing for him except, you know, go to work. But,
that's funny.
That's great.
That's true.
Bridget, can you tell us about a heartwarming situation that you dealt with?
Yes.
You're having the typical police response where you're like, let me filter slowly heartwarming versus heartbreaking.
I know. I'm thinking about, honestly, I'm thinking about all the kids I encountered, which was usually always so heartbreaking. Did I tell you about one when we chatted before? Because now I can't.
I don't know.
It sounds bad. But, you know, so much of my time was in narcotic. Oh, well, okay, I do remember. Because so much of my time was in the undercover narcotics unit. So 3 years of the 4.5, I was in undercover narcotics.
Bridget, can I ask you? Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
New officer, obviously very motivated. How'd you get into these specialties so quickly?
Because I was a female, honestly. The narcotics unit didn't have a female. And, almost anybody will sell drugs to a chick, honestly.
It is a great asset to have a female. I mean, I told you before when we were chatting, I'm on a county dispatch board, and we're always looking for females to search. It's just all the time. Like, is there a female on? Can you get her to this town? Yeah. You know, it's just very valuable to have.
Which also meant it was my joy to search all the prostitutes that we arrested, which
yuck.
Not fun.
Not cool.
I can say my most painful injury was the time I got accidentally headbutted by a prostitute in the nose as we were trying to arrest her. And I was behind her. It's kind of funny. She was this little thing and she didn't want to be arrested, and she was in handcuffs, and we were just trying to get her in the car, and she starts going crazy. She flicks her head back and gets me right on the nose. And you know, that just immediately hurts, and your eyes water, and it hurts so bad. And
it feels like your nose is flat. You're like, my nose is broken.
Oh gosh. Like you feel a crack and you're like, am I bleeding? And I was fine. But one of the guys I worked with, she was so little, and he's an ex-Marine, epitome of what a Marine looks like, just picks her up and puts her in the car and closes the door. She was not injured, just in case anybody was wondering. But, so I think it's the fact that I was a female and they didn't have a female in the narcotics unit. And then I definitely knew I wanted to be on the SWAT team. And I lucked out that they had 2 openings right after that. So I tried out, I think it was around November. It was around the time I got on the narcotics unit.
I mean, they don't let slouches on the SWAT team. You got to shoot good. You got to do the physical stuff. I mean, you definitely got on there.
I passed the tryout. I remember starting before the sun came up, and the SWAT commander at the time, my maiden name is Barragona, and we were lined up in line of 2s, getting ready to start the run for the start of the tryout. He always yells out, "Barragona, you're making history. That's all I got to say. Let's get there." He's like, "Get your running going." So we
that's
took
nice.
off.
I like that.
Yeah, and he didn't stay the SWAT commander for very long. Well, he wasn't the SWAT commander for long, and then somebody else took over. But I don't even know if he wanted me there. Either way, I was making history because I was the only female that I ever even tried out. And then they put me on the team in January or February because there were a couple holes they were looking to fill. So what I learned after that is I was told 3 times that the only reason I was on the SWAT team is because the captain made them put me on.
That's nice. Is that
not
nice?
Not because they wanted me on. Yeah.
We didn't want you. We had to have you.
By the time my SWAT commander said it to me the 3rd time, I said to him,
"Oh my goodness.
I heard you the first 2 times. Just so you know. I got it."
Wow.
It's in the books. Yeah. It was
That's
that was
brutal.
It was aggravating.
That's really harsh. I mean,
this was after we had competed on SWAT Roundup International. So if you've never, it still happens. You can look it up. It's SWAT Roundup International.
Yeah.
It's a SWAT competition that happens in Orlando every year. It's awesome. You can go watch it. I mean, I don't know. I guess anybody can go watch it now, but used to, anybody could go. I haven't been since I left.
I know our SWAT teams go to these competitions for sure.
Yeah, so it's awesome. And literally international teams. I mean, Germany, Sarajevo, I mean, all the full-time teams like LAPD, Dallas PD. I mean, badass full-time SWAT teams were there competing. And I was there twice. I had to beat out other guys on my SWAT team to make the roundup, the competition team. And then when we were there, we placed in the top 20 every time. And the first year there was 76 teams. Second year there was 74 teams.
That's great.
And so we were a legit team. And even after all that, he was telling me, the only reason you're on this team is because the captain made me put you on. Like, thank you. A lot.
Damn. That's pretty brutal. I know I interviewed homicide detective who's now a chief investigator for the DAs in Northern California, Lindy Glagorovich. Super hard last name. But she's really funny and really, really awesome police officer. And she talked about just the boys club, and it just you know, you go in knowing, and but her stories still were just like, damn, like you know, a guy at the soda machine getting a soda, like, hey, I thought you know, just without any kind of humor, really, just kind of like, hey, I thought you were effing everybody on the department. What happened to me? And she's like, well, and his last name was like Zelensky or something. And she was like, well, I'm doing it alphabetically. So, you know, you're going to have to wait or whatever, you know, so perfect, you know, like for a douche.
I wish I would have thought about something like that. Well, when I was on the SWAT team, it was back when we had pagers. And so I don't know how they do it now, but I quit the SWAT like 3 months left, knowing I was leaving to go to law school. And because I just had some things came up, and I was like, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I literally went into my captain's office one day and I said, I want you to take me off narcotics and SWAT team yesterday, and I want day shift. Like I'm not doing, I can't do this anymore. And he knew that things were escalating at the time. So he's like, you got it. I mean, I'm not, you know, it didn't happen exactly, but my captain was awesome.
And was this because of like the pressure and stuff, or just the bad attitude?
Not the pressure.
No, but, you know, the pressure from like the leadership, but they just didn't want a woman.
I mean, I don't think they would have ever said it was, I don't know. I'm not even going to speak for them. I can just say I had effing had it with showing them I could do the job, competing in 2 SWAT roundups where, I mean, just the obstacle course alone on that roundup, I saw grown men fall off crying. And we placed in the top 20 of just that individual event every year with me on it. I mean, so obviously physically I was capable of doing the job. I was really good at shooting. I mean, shooting and running. I mean, I could prove to them I was obviously strong enough to do the job. I mean, I'm no 250-pound Marine, you know, Brian Gaynor is his name. Good guy. Obviously Gaynor and I aren't going to have the same roles, but could have been a really great asset. And it was really hard to do all that and not ever to come to the realization that it would never matter.
That sucks. You know, it's like I've kind of got some flack before on the show for saying things about women police officers. And I think women police officers are great. And I think that what you did was great. And I think that any person that can do what you were doing should be on the SWAT team. I don't want to say my opinion of it has changed. So when I first got out, when I first left, my opinion would have been, no, I don't mean this to sound bad, but okay, I'm not going to say this part. But when I got out, my opinion was women shouldn't be on. It just doesn't work. For where you were anyway.
So, and maybe it's, I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot more I could say about that, but, my opinion was it just doesn't work. I don't know if you say it's too distracting. You know, Mars, Venus, apple, oranges. It's just different. to have. Men and women are just different. Now, I felt like I busted my tail to prove to them that my gender didn't matter in terms of being an operator. But at the end of the day, I decided I just didn't need to keep fighting that battle the rest of my career. It wasn't worth it.
I understand.
But what I was going to say is that at the end, we had pagers, and I guess, I don't remember if I still had my pager, so I must have just quit the team. And I got at least 2 pages, if not 3. 2 of them for sure were guys from the SWAT team that called and said, heard you left SWAT. They paged me. I called them back. What's up? Heard you left SWAT team. Yep. So we can hook up now? I'm sorry, what?
Yikes. That's
I said,
gross.
Yeah, so we can hook up now. And one of them I said, pretty sure your wife wouldn't like that. So no. Oh. And then the other one I wanted to say, are you freaking kidding me that this whole time you're one of the nice ones? And now is this the only reason why? Like, did you ever think I was worthy of respect on the team, or was it just you holding on to this so that it was crushing? Like, it sucked bad.
Bridget, that's brutal. Oh my God. What I was going to say was I'm all for women doing those roles, but I don't want to, I'm not into changing standards for sex.
No.
Or
nobody
race
changed standards
or anything else.
I don't think you should. No. Yeah. I don't think you should either.
I want a standard as a citizen who pays taxes where I am. I want my SWAT team who services my family when I'm not here. I want them to fit a standard. And if you did the shooting and the running and the physical stuff, that's fine with me. I ran the same obstacle course they had to run, or I had to drag I got a 170-pound dummy, which felt like a mile, which wasn't really, from like point A to point B. I had to get this dummy from, let's say it was 50 yards. I really don't remember, but I mean, I had to get the dummy just like everybody else. I didn't lift him over my shoulder. I'm not going to lie, but I got him out of harm's way and into the van. Yeah, totally.
All on my own. And I repelled and I shot and I did all of it. I qualified for that shit.
Absolutely.
Sorry. I hope I'm not going to tell my dad to listen to this when he always talks to me about my language.
You've been good about language. I'm with you and totally. And I do. I mean, I think there is a difference with the military. I think when you're living with women and you're fighting with them overseas, I do. And I think people have chimed in. Psychologists have said like it is different, like because men intrinsically want. Innately want to take care of women. So it's like if you get embedded with a woman soldier in a situation, it can change the dynamics of your fighting. Okay, I get it. Let's look at that in reality and, let's examine it. But when it comes to like SWAT stuff and police stuff, if you're passing the standards, you're shooting and you're moving and you're running and you're physically fit, you should be good to go. You know what I mean? It should be fine. That's really terrible. All that. That's really, I mean, I'm not super surprised. I mean, you were working in the South, and the South kind of has a rep for being a little slow to adapt, stuff like that.
I met several SWAT guys from the North at SWAT Roundup, and they didn't seem much different.
How dare you, Bridget? We're much different. We're very progressive up here.
Don't even. I'm from the South. I'm not going to let you throw all of us under the bus.
That's funny.
But I do think, I mean, people are people. And I agree with you on the military stuff. I mean, like I say, I really don't know if, I think women can earn a spot in a lot of places, like, on their character, their ability, everything else.
Sure.
And I just don't know if it would work. So.
Understood.
I'm glad I did it. 100% glad I did it.
I'm glad you did it too. It makes a very good podcast episode. I like it. It's awesome. It's very cool. Bridget, can you, this is like a very popular question, I should say, especially for our female guests, because I don't get a lot of female guests. So I'm, super happy to ask you this. Can you give some advice to new female officers, candidates who are, or not even just females, I mean, anybody, but specifically through your experience, can you give some advice to new officers? Yes.
I mean, all officers, I think, and maybe it's better now than it used to be, in terms of, and what I'm about to say, which is start from the very beginning on taking care of yourself. It's not just about physical. And I'll say, you might not be the type, whoever's listening, you meaning whoever's listening, might not be the type person that wants to go out for SWAT team or some type of special unit that requires an elite level of fitness. But still, you're in a job that requires you to protect people. And where, you're going 1 minute, your shift might be 11 and a half hours of sheer boredom, and then 30 minutes of just everything hitting the fan and chasing or fighting. we've all seen so you have to be ready. Your body needs to be able to handle that. And that's physically, number one, to take care of yourself. So physically, exercise and have strength and have stamina you want your body to be able to handle 90 to nothing and 90 to 0 back again. But
that's
you have to train your body for that.
It's such a great point, Bridget, because seeing new recruits coming in, that is something they're actually letting up on a lot in academy. There's a lot of fat candidates, fatties, coming in, and it's I understand these people's brains work and they're smart and they can, they're talented in other ways, but you need to be physically fit. That's a standard that it goes beyond fitness. It's discipline.
I agree.
It's self-control. It's treating your body with respect. You know what I mean? To me, it's if you can't get it together for academy, how are you going to get it together?
Right. Sometimes you have to chase people to save people.
Yeah.
And how are you going to do that? And that explosive energy to go from sitting in your car to chasing. I've done that. One time it was really stupid.
That's how the cops get injured all the time.
Oh, one time we were on an undercover thing and we watched this guy by, and sometimes we do what's called a buy bust. So you buy, you give the word, and then the uniform guys come in to arrest them. And this guy immediately takes off running. Well, the uniform guy that came in was one of these, he had good guy, but I think he'd been a cop for 40 years, and he was not going to chase anybody. And so I was right behind him, and so he didn't chase. Well, I jumped out of my car to chase. Well, I jumped out of my car without a radio. I don't even know. I think I had my gun on me. So I had my gun on me, but I had no radio and no phone. And so nobody could even come find me. I think I even called it out and said he's running, and then I took off. And so I had no radio, no phone. So anyway, there could be stupid time. That was stupid. But thankfully there were a lot of undercover people in the area with us, and they knew, they just drove around a couple blocks and they ended up seeing me chase this guy. Ended up chasing the guy into a crack house where it was stupid. Anyway, we got him. But, so going back to that, though, is I do not understand why anybody would get into law enforcement thinking that you don't need to be physically capable of doing the job. So not just for yourself, and I'm saying it from a take care of yourself, but also how can you possibly save people if you're not physically capable of doing that? And I remember, either because you're so overweight you can't run, but to me that is a liability. And from an agency perspective, why would you put yourself in that type of liability? Now, from the lawyer side of things, I can say, well, if somebody does get injured, how could you prove? They wouldn't be able to prove it's because your cops are too lazy to run. But we're in the business of saving people. I'm going to still put myself in there. But another one is to be smart about it. There was a girl when we were on SWAT, and my agency did this great thing at the time where we did physical fitness tests. It wasn't mandatory because there's all this crap you can't make mandatory anymore, even back then. But it was an incentive program. So if you did all these certain physical fitness tests, you could earn either money or extra time off, which I thought was great. Yeah. I think it was either $250 or $350 or an extra day off or half day off, which that's, cops don't make a lot of money. So that's great. So and they had the SWAT people, they had us administering a lot of the tests. And one of the girls came up and I was helping her and just chatting in the parking lot before they were getting ready to do the sprint. And she said something along the lines of, I can fight anybody if you just give me 30 seconds. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she's my size, and I'm 5'5", I'm not going to tell you what I weigh, but whatever. And she's about my size, so not big. And she points over to Brian Gaynor, the guy the Marine guy that was on SWAT with me. She's like, yeah, I could fight Gaynor. You just give me 30 seconds. And I looked at her and I got mad about it. I said, Gaynor will kill you. Gaynor will kill you in 30 seconds. Like, are you freaking? And then I got mad at her. I was like, and then you're going to get other people hurt because they're going to be racing to you to come save your life because you're being so stupid. Like, I got so mad about it.
Too much ego.
So, yes. And especially from a female, like, I never once got into a fight in a situation that I created on my own, from my own stupidity. And so that's what she's going to do. So you have to be smart about that. Know your strengths and your weaknesses. My weakness, it would have been weakness. It's like, I would never fight a dude because you have testosterone and I don't. I'm probably in better shape than most guys, especially then, but I'm still not going to fight you because throw a little adrenaline or a little bit of drugs on that and you're still going to be way stronger than me. And I'm not, I was smart enough to know, don't fight if you don't have to. So anyway, to go back to what I tell recruits is take care of yourself physically, but also take care of yourself mentally, but do it proactively. And so don't wait until you feel like, 5 years in and start to realize what the job is doing to you. And I say proactively, talk to a therapist. I talk to a therapist every 2 weeks. I am lucky in this. I don't have a lot of psychological issues. I mean, we all have some, let's be honest.
Of course.
But I guess
you're probably talking to a bunch of nut jobs, so.
Yeah. I think it's a proactive tool to make sure that you're okay. And if you don't do that, it's look at ways to do things for yourself that make you feel good every day so that you can find little moments of happiness, but also things that train your brain to know how to handle stress when it happens. That includes like exercise. Exercise is create difficult moments within the body so that your brain knows it's okay and it can handle that. So that when you're chasing somebody or fighting somebody or I don't know, whatever physical task you got to do on the job, you can do it. So that's what I would
Bridget,
tell.
even doing CPR on someone. I mean, if you do CPR for 10 minutes waiting for rescue,
it's exhausting.
Freaking exhausted. I mean, even little things like that. Yeah.
And that's what I say, like, you're in the business of helping people. And are you willing to let a person die because you can't keep up CPR? I mean, people can do amazing things in intense moments. So I'm not saying someone would lose the ability to do CPR, but yeah, you need to be able to help people and then mentally you need to be able to help yourself. But for the women out there, I could say a lot. I'm actually getting ready to launch my first course, which is specific to women in law enforcement to give them legal advice.
That's great.
Yes, to give them legal advice and career advice on how to handle the job. So to give them like real life examples of things that I dealt with. And I know maybe it's extreme because I was on SWAT team, but if you're a female on the job, you're going to come across it one way or another. Maybe not in a short amount of time as I did, but it's going to happen. But I want to give them examples of what I did, things that happened to me, what I didn't do, what I wish I would have done, but then also legally, what are your options? Because I am an attorney and I've specialized my practice now on anything, mostly involving anything on employment related matters, because so much of what I think all cops, but especially women, need advice on are things involving their agency or the people they work with. So I'm excited about launching that course. I plan to do so within about a month or within the next month. So that's why, shameless plug. Thank you for letting me do so. You can go to my website and sign up for a newsletter, or I also have a free download on some 7
protective
tactical
wellness,
steps.
right?
Yep.
Let's take a look. There we are. We're on your site,
That's
right?
my website.
All right.
Yep. My Protective Wellness is the company is called Protective Wellness. The website is called myprotectivewellness.com. And then one of the first things you'll see on the homepage, which you're showing on the video, is the free guide you can download. And really taking a look at number one. So tips to give all cops are figure out what's matters to you, figure out things in life that are like who you want to be, and then things that you can do to make you feel good each day, and then start implementing those things and training yourself on how to do those things on a daily basis. But also you're showing on the website, it is some description of what the program provides, which is we provide a membership. So for the courses, if you want to if you sign up for the membership, not only do you get any course that I'll ever provide ever, you also get access to one-on-one legal advice with me or an attorney like me, which is an attorney who's been in law enforcement.
Which I love. I think that's so cool. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen anybody offering legal support along with like mental health. It's great. Yeah,
well, because I think to me, legal support is mental. What I call a wellness tool, because so much of it, you're either worried about something that's happening within your agency, or you're worried, you're stressed because you're being treated in a way that you don't think is fair, or you're worried that, am I doing the right things legally, or am I going to get in trouble? I mean, even what I know from going to law school, especially, is that can you or can you not search a trunk is not a black and white issue. Meaning, I don't mean color. I mean, like it's gray area in terms of when you can and cannot search a trunk. And so someday I'm going to do the coaching session I'm getting ready to do for women in law enforcement is just this month. So the next month we're going to have a live out coaching session on mental wellness with a featured guest who is a therapist that works with law enforcement only, or first responders. And I'm going to do one on nutrition with the nutritionist from LAPD. One on motherhood, because I can certainly talk a lot about motherhood and how to handle all of that while also I wasn't a mom when I was a cop, but I'm certainly a mom now and know what the job is like. So, but the important part to me is that I consider, like, if I wish I would have had somebody like me when I was on the narcotics unit on the SWAT team to be able to call, who understood what the job was like, for me to say, holy crap, let me tell you what my SWAT commander just said to me this time. Like,
yes.
Well, even if I don't want to file a complaint, which a lot of times they don't, is, what are my options if I'm just so fed up? I ultimately left the job because I was so fed up. I'm glad I did, because I can give back in this way now. But ultimately, I don't want people to leave the job, men or women. We need everybody to stay on this job. They're very important to all of us and to our whole country. And so I want to be able to do what I can to keep them happy. My slogan is, I want to provide comfort, ease, and support so that you can live a more balanced and joyful life. I want you to find more joy on a daily basis so that you'll stay in this job and be happy with yourself. So, and I include very intentionally legal advice in that, because I think it can provide peace of mind. So yeah, that's what I've created out of all those stories I told you in the last hour.
Absolutely. I love it. It's so cool. I love it. It's really cool. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing that.
Yeah,
with
thank
everybody.
you so much.
I hope that the women out there in law enforcement or getting into it, or going to be climbing the ladder of law enforcement, reach out to you, because, when I was a younger patrolman and, came across some intense stuff, like you said, about seeing a therapist, I spoke with somebody, because I was just like, I was at that turning point where I was like, do I want to do this? Like I just saw some stuff that was really disturbing. And, a lot of times the only thing you need is someone who's been there. The only thing you need is someone to tell you, that's fine. That's fine. You feel like that. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. Someone just saying, that's fine to feel like that. And it can't, and a lot of times it can't be your spouse, because your spouse is a lot like my mom in middle school. Ah, hooray for Mr. Touchdown. You're the most handsome. You're the smartest. You're the best. You're the, whatever. And that's really great. And that has a place. But to have someone who's not vested in you, like a third party, to kind of chime in on your life and go, that's normal.
It's fine.
That's fine. That's good. That's fine. You feel like that. I literally, Bridget, I tell you, did 2 sessions in my 14 years in law enforcement. And that's like all I needed to hear. Now, everybody's different, and people might need a lot more work or even maybe less. But for me, that was it. I was like, some people just don't know. Like I was, like, people just don't realize. So when you reach out to organizations like Bridget's and you get support, it just really helps you in your life. It just feels. But
to me, there's 2 things that it does. Is number 1, it tells you there's nothing wrong with you at all, and then number 2, you're not alone.
Yes,
because you think, everybody's doing the job and everybody sees things, but no matter what, you always think, well, but nobody, this is what's happening. You're just not alone. So whatever way you think you're alone, you're not. And, one of the things too, I know that exists is the, distrust with you and your agency that can exist. I mean, if you work in an agency where you don't have any distrust, that is fantastic.
Very rare. It's very rare.
Yeah, but it's very rare. So a lot of people don't want to use whatever resources are available through their department because they're afraid of that being used against them somehow.
Bridget,
so
we had
assistance programs.
We had a poster on the wall, and literally a supervisor would go, "Oh, call that number."
Mm-hmm.
Just some 800 number from some national program where you're like, oh, I feel really cared for now. I'm going to call an 800 number for some freaking person provided by the federal government. Like, it doesn't feel good.
I mean, to me, it was that I didn't have anybody I felt like I could trust, even through the programs available in my department. But then also, even when I was in a union, and I think people should stay in a union. If you get into a use of force situation and they need to defend you, you cannot afford somebody like me. I mean, I'm cheap-ish because my hourly rate as an attorney is $3.50 an hour. But my membership right now is $59 a month, and you get access to me for legal advice if you need it for $59 a month.
That's great.
Plus all the classes we offer. And so when I was at the sheriff's office and getting involved in crap, and I got involved in a couple internal affairs investigations, I didn't go to my union rep because he was another one of the guys, and I didn't trust. First of all, I didn't trust that he wouldn't tell everybody, and then number two, I didn't feel like he would get me. And so I just didn't want any of that to have anything to do with my department. I wanted help from somebody I could trust that understood what it was like to be in that position, and didn't feel like I could get that at all through my union or my department. But I'm not telling anybody to leave your union. Stay in your union if that's what you want. I know there's some other programs out there called, like one of them is called Law Shield. They do provide legal advice, but only on use of force situations. My program provides legal advice on anything you want to talk about. So you want to start a business because you want to make more money, start a nonprofit because you care even more about the human race. Great. Book a call through the program, and we can give you advice on all that.
Well, them versus you, they are garbage in comparison. I don't know anything about them.
I'm going to quote that. Okay, I'm going to quote that part, but
quote
leave off what you just said. Yeah.
That's awesome. Bridget, thank you
Steve,
so much.
Thank you so much.
I had such a good time.
This was fun.
Yes, it was such a good time. You had great stories, and it was just great to chat with you about everything we talked about. It was so fun. It was cathartic to get it all out there about our police experiences, and I'm so glad we finally hooked up. So good. Yeah. I'm going to do the outro, and will you stay on the line so we can chat?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. That was episode number 79 with Bridget Truxillo. Great guest. That was so fun. Such great stories. So it's great to hear. Everybody loves to hear a police officer talk. Everybody doubly loves to hear a female police officer talk. I know that for a fact because I get your emails all the time. So Bridget, you hit it out of the park. That was awesome. I want to say, if you're a female officer and you want to come on this podcast, if you want to mix it up in the boys club, I promote that. I love that. Go to thingspolicec.com, scroll down, click be a guest. Just give me a quick synopsis. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just, your years on the job, where you are now, and what you want to talk about. Love to have you on. It's very much the honor system. I really want you to be in good standing with any department you left or anywhere you're working. And I don't want you to come on here and tell me a bunch of stories and then call me 2 days later and tell me that your agency isn't cool with it either. 'Cause that sucks for me. And it will suck for you too. So just do what you need to do if you're active duty to come on. And if you're retired, let it rip. No one cares. They can't hold you accountable. Retired people sometimes are the best to have on. So go there and do that. Rate and review the podcast, please. And thank you. I've had a bunch of great reviews lately, and I'm over 500 on iTunes, which is really good because it gets more eyes on the podcast. And let me end it by saying go to myprotectivewellness.com and support Bridget and check out her services because she's a very, very intelligent woman, very decorated, and what a career. And sounds like she could really help you out, especially if you're female getting into it, or if you need legal advice, or just general wellness stuff. She's going to help you out, and I'm super happy to have her on and be able to promote that to you guys. So that's it, guys, for the podcast. I'm going to keep them coming at you as quickly as I can, and I will see you next time.